Welcome to the Project Endure podcast, the place where we talk about life, endurance, persistence, perspective, and so much more. I'm Joe Rinaldi, and I'll be your host. Let's jump in. Before we get started, let me share a quote with you. The great Les Brown once said, "You can't see the picture when you're in the frame."
Welcome back to the Project
If you felt
Endure
stuck
podcast.
in your fitness,
This is Joe Rinaldi,
mindset,
and
or life as a
this is
whole,
a solo episode.
head down to the link in the show notes
recorded
and reach out
on
to learn
April
more about
14th,
Project Endure Coaching
2024,
so that we
the
can
day
help you
after
step outside
our
of the
third
frame
ever
and bridge
annual
the gap
Project
between
Endure
who you are
event.
now and who you want to be.
If you can hear it in my
Can't
voice,
wait to hear from you.
now,
Now,
I'm losing it a bit.
Let's get to the episode.
There was a lot of talking, a lot of shouting, a lot of cheering over the past few days. And there's just so much to break down. This episode will be me processing the events of this weekend, as well as any thoughts that feel relevant. I'm sitting down here this morning not knowing what to expect out of myself. And so it'll be interesting to see where this goes. We might be here for 5 minutes. We might be here for 50 minutes. You'll know before you hit play. With that being said, I think the best place to start for this podcast is just with a thank you. From the absolute bottom of my heart, thank you to every single person who showed up yesterday for our event. It's hard to put into words, and you might not understand until you're in the position of putting on something that is so meaningful to you. You might not understand what it means for every single person to show up, to see those people walk through the door. People you've known for your whole life, people who you met the last week, people you've never met before, spending their precious time and attention to be with you for something that you've created. It's just indescribable for me at this moment. But I want you to know that if you were there, I am so grateful for you. So grateful. With that being said, I think it's important to back up and start from, way back before this event happened. If I had to rewind, I would rewind a few years. When I got up in front of everybody at the event, I started off with a thank you. It's just such an honor to be in a space like that with people like that. And again, hard to express my gratitude. For people who were new to the brand and still attempting to process in that moment when we started, who we are, what we stand for, what the event was about. I wanted to do my best to explain that. And so I felt that the best way to explain that would be to start by sharing our mission. And our mission is singular. Our mission is to help others find strength in struggle. And our motto is do hard things. As I went on to explain, that is our motto because growth is uncomfortable and what we want is on the other side of hard. It's that simple. And it's not. The ironic thing about that statement is that doing hard things isn't about what we get at the end, but instead it's about who we become in the pursuit. It's never about the outcome. It's always about who we become. I also want to give more context by rewinding 3 years before this all started. 3 years ago, I was working a job I didn't love, living a life that left me wanting more and feeling anxious about almost everything. I asked everyone in attendance at the event to raise their hand if any of those statements resonated with them. And I didn't count, but I sure saw a lot of hands go up, almost every single hand in that room. And I asked everyone to look around and to recognize that if they're feeling those things, they're not alone. I continued on by sharing that I was in this season of life where every free second was spent wondering what stood between me and what I wanted. Deep down, I couldn't help but feel that I was supposed to be building something that would make this world a better place. And yet I was terrified at the thought of leaving something that seemed stable for the thought of creating something that felt formless. And just to go back to that last sentence, the job I had at the time seemed stable. It felt safe. That's all an illusion. Unless something is 100% within your control, anything could happen, right? There are people listening to this podcast who have lost jobs that they thought they were secure in. There are companies that go under with very little notice. Things get ripped out from under us. We experience loss all of the time. It's unpredictable. And so that job seemed safe. It seemed stable. And in hindsight, I can see that while it felt that way, it didn't mean it was that way. And so I was scared about creating something that felt formless. I couldn't see the specifics of what I wanted to build, and that left me feeling stuck. I was fortunate enough to have people in my life who had taken the risk to build things, and one of them was at the event. He played a big part in the event. And I'm not sure if he understood the magnitude of impact that he had on me until that moment. My friend, Sam Tooley, helped push me down this path in a big way. Sam and I had a podcast that still exists out on the internet. We don't record anymore, called the Pursuit Podcast. And through our conversations every week, being able to check in on one another, ask those questions that went below the surface, that time in my life was so transformative. And it sounded like, from what Sam said while he spoke, that it was the same for him. And it was a very special thing. And so watching Sam take action, getting to talk with him, that helped inspire and encourage me. It helped push me down this path. And I decided to go for it. 3 years ago, in April of 2021, I was ready to go. It felt like I had been climbing this diving board. I guess not climbing the diving board, climbing a ladder to a diving board, one rung at a time. And I had gotten to the top, and I was standing at the edge, looking down at the water, however many feet below, terrified. And I stood there for a while. And it was through conversations with people like Sam that I eventually decided I needed to jump. And so I took the first steps to create Project Endure, not knowing what it would become, but trusting that it would become what someone needed. Sure enough, action created clarity, and each small step led to the next, bringing us to yesterday. The truth is, I didn't have a grand, detailed vision for what this would all be. Instead, I knew deep down what I wanted to feel, and the event, standing there, surrounded by people who believed enough in what we're building to be there, excited and prepared for whatever lied ahead. That was the feeling that I had felt. That was the feeling I wanted to create. And it happened. And it was so special to stand there yesterday, to say those words, to feel those things. My heart was so full. And it was important for me to give everyone that context, because everyone has a dream of what they want to create in their life. More importantly, everyone has a dream of who they want to become. And like it's been said, we are all rough drafts of the person we're becoming. And if there's one thing I know to be true, it's that the hard things in life are both the most transformative and the most rewarding. Like someone once told me, easier doesn't make you stronger. And if you're listening to this and you're still unsure of how to bridge the gap between where you are now and where you want to be, I want to be clear. You don't need to know the end destination in order to start moving. You just need a general direction and a strong reason to go there. You need to be able to feel what it is that you want and then trust that you'll grow through the process. And as important as it is to feel, I also want to be clear that ready is a decision, not a feeling. I told the group that what I was about to say next to them, I wasn't sure if it was original to me or if I read it somewhere and then thought it was mine, because that happens. But these two lines have been running through my mind for so long. The first was, endurance without purpose is exhaustion, because we can all run in circles, going nowhere, feeling exhausted, thinking it's endurance. The second, endurance with direction is resilience. No matter how you slice it, endurance is messy, and the mess is where the magic happens. There's no point in avoiding the mess, because that would mean avoiding life. And it's through the messiness of getting to this point that I've come to realize that sometimes the biggest risk is taking no risk at all, because we get to do this just once. So I shared with the group what I needed to hear 3 years ago. And that is, don't let your dreams of today become bones in the graveyard of what could have been. Despite the beginning of this talk being about me and the next little bit also being about me, I told the group that this isn't about me. It's about you on the other side, seeing a bit of yourself in me, because in the end, we're all the same. I'm the person I am today because of what I've struggled with, not in spite of it. The hard things that I've been handed are unique to me and universal all at the same time. For those of you who don't know, I'm on a path toward blindness, and I can't change that. While not everyone is losing their sight, I do understand that everyone is struggling with something. If you're listening to this, whatever you're carrying with you in this chapter of life, whatever battle you're fighting behind closed doors, just remember and never forget that the hard things you choose and the hard things that choose you both exist to nurture growth only if you choose that perspective. You are planted, not buried, and there is no strength without struggle. I would also add that life is not about what happens to us, but instead it's about how we choose to respond. The choices we make, including the perspectives we adopt, are the only things that we can control. My hope for the event was that people would walk away with a renewed sense of ownership over what they can control. I had a quote to drive the point home, and I made a joke that it's on the longer side. However, people should be impressed with me because I limited myself throughout the entire talk, which lasted 15 minutes, to just 2 quotes. And if you know me, then that is impressive. So here was the quote from Hal Elrod. Those who only do what they feel like don't do much. To be successful at anything, you must take action even when you don't feel like it, knowing it is the action itself that will produce the motivation you need to follow through. When you value your integrity at the highest level, living in alignment with your word and following through with your commitments no matter what, there are no limits to what you can create for your life. However, when you make excuses, justify doing what is easiest, and choose the path of least resistance, you will live a life of mediocrity, frustration, and regret. Live with integrity as if your life depended on it, because it does. So, what was this event about? The event was about celebrating our community and all of the people who continue to stand up each time life knocks them down. All of the people who choose to show up even when it's the last thing that they want to do. All of the people who do hard things in pursuit of their full potential. all of the people who lift others up from darkness, and all of the people in darkness who want to find strength so badly, but have no idea how. The experience is also created for those who want more from their lives and who have let fear stand in the way for far too long. It's all about growing, connecting, creating memories, and committing to a better life one step at a time. And it's in that spirit that I challenged the attendees to think about something, to think about the truth that we are all always one person, one conversation, and one experience away from a completely different life. I asked them, and I'll ask you, that you be open to the idea that this very part of your life, this hour, this day, this week, this month, this year, that this might be that where it all changes. Just one person, one conversation, or one experience away. Think about what it could do to your life to say yes to that thing that's in front of you. I told them that the hard part was done. They're here. The hardest part was also done. They parked here in Philadelphia. We only had one person get their car towed. So I encourage them to start the conversation, to make the friend, to share that thing that they've been holding inside, and to step outside of what's comfortable at every twist and every turn. And you can do the same, right? This week, you can do that wherever you are. I also asked them to not forget that hard things can be fun things. And so through it all, I wanted everyone to have a lot of fun. And they did. I told everyone that I left out a thank you, and I left this one for last on purpose. But again, from the bottom of my heart, thank you to each and every person who showed up for that event, who traveled from near and very far to be with us. It's important to recognize that finding strength in struggle, doing hard things, growing, bettering ourselves, it doesn't happen alone. One of the biggest blessings and most important pieces of Project Endure is the people, simplified down to its most basic form. The past 3 years have been an exercise of collecting good human beings around a meaningful mission and an ever-developing vision. The whole of Project Endure is a beautiful mosaic of stories, struggles, smiles, and spirits who refuse to give in to the temptation of what's easiest, comfortable, and wrong. In other words, we wouldn't have been there yesterday without each one of you, and we are so much stronger together. I thought long and hard about how to express that gratitude. I had months and weeks to think about this, and I just couldn't. Again, I come back to that feeling of this being indescribable. And I'll go off on a tangent here and just say that I think some of the best parts of life, some of the best experiences, they're things we feel, not things we can describe. And I would encourage everyone listening to this to lean into those feelings that only you can feel, because there's something special about that. And that's what yesterday was for me. I decided to end this year's talk with the same quote that I've ended with for the past 3 years. Well, past 2 years and this year, so 3 years total. From Alexis Carrel, who said, "Man cannot remake himself without suffering, for he is both the marble and the sculptor." Before I continue talking about the rest of the event, I want to rewind and say that at the beginning of my talk, I thanked some of the people who have helped us get to this point. The first person I thanked, the person who I love the most, and the person who loves nothing less than public attention, my wife, Michaela. I love her more than anything, and I wouldn't be who I am without her. And therefore, Project Endure would not exist the way it does without her. I called her up in front of everyone. She was aware that this would happen. She did a great job staying up there and not retreating back to her seat right away like last year. What she didn't know is I had a confetti cannon. So I shot a bunch of white confetti up in the air behind her, stepped out of the way, and it was a really special moment for me. She's standing underneath the original black Project Endure flag. She is wearing her Project Endure gear. She's in front of this crowd of 200 to 250 people. I haven't counted yet, maybe more. And they're clapping for her because she deserves it. And I hope she felt that. And she told me after the event that she felt more comfortable than ever in a setting like that. And it's so amazing for me to watch her grow through the course of our relationship, just like I've grown through the course of our relationship. And I'm just so, so grateful for you. And uh, I hope she's listening to this. And I know she knows this, but I love you, Michaela. So, with that being said, I'll go on to after I was done talking, we had a few other people stand up and talk. Some people that really mean a lot to me, and I'll let them share their stories through social media, however they'd like, with some of the content that we captured. However, I do want to highlight Kieran Williams and Sam Tooley in specific because they have supported me in many ways. And for this event, they supported in a big way. They provided the shirts that every single attendee got free of charge to them. They helped with the planning. They were there for whatever I needed. And they both spoke and delivered powerful messages. Kieran talked about manufactured hard with his sense of humor mixed in, which is my favorite. And Sam talked about his story, a story that I know well through our conversations. And one of the things that really touched me was just the fact that he highlighted how much work goes into an event like yesterday, how much it takes to get to that point, and that it's not something that happens overnight. It's not something that happens in a week or a month or a year. But yesterday was the culmination of 3+ years of very hard work, waking up and taking action on the days where it feels great and easy and smooth, and also waking up and taking action on the days where it feels hard and uncomfortable and uncertain. And I would say there have been a lot of those days in this process so far for me. But one thing I know to be true is that persistence is powerful. The waves of life will come and go, the highs and lows, the ups, the downs, the twists, the turns. And one of the only constants in our lives is us, how we choose to show up, how we choose to view things. And there is so much power in that choice. And I appreciate that Sam highlighted that. There's this picture that was sent to me this morning, and it's a picture of Sam speaking. And he's in focus, and I'm in the background, focused on him with the biggest smile on my face. And that picture means a lot to me, again, because he is one of the reasons that I'm where I'm at today. He pushed me, even if he didn't know it, to go down this path. And I'm so, so grateful for that. So, so grateful for you, Sam, Kieran, the Garage Gym, for partnering with us for the event, and for everyone who came out to make it happen. So, with that being said, I'm going to go through the remainder of the event. I'll process as I go. And then at the end, I do want to loop back and talk a bit about the days leading up to the event. So, the event itself, so, so special. Morning of the event, I wake up with a knot in my stomach. Felt like I was about to play the biggest high school football game of my life. And I expected to feel more positive, but I didn't. And that's the truth. And I'm going to be honest because I think that's important. I woke up to a few messages, and I've been getting these messages all week from people who RSVP'd, promised they'd be there, were so excited to participate, saying that for one reason or another, they couldn't be there anymore. And I get it, right? Some people have things going on in their lives that are unpredictable, unforeseen, uncontrollable, and things change, things happen, and people have to take care of themselves. And I 100% understand and respect that and admire that, to be honest. That doesn't bother me. What bothers me are the people who said they would be there, didn't realize how much that meant to me, and then just bailed. And that's hard. However, morning of the event, I'm not speaking many words, attempting to conserve my voice for the day. And the silence of a beautiful, somewhat cold spring morning here in Philadelphia just allowed me to really look inward and reflect and recognize that in that morning of feeling frustrated and a bit upset, that was me being selfish, because this event, again, not about me. Project Endure, again, not about me. What I'm trying to cultivate, not about me, right? Life is so much bigger than any one of us, and this is not about me. Once I was able to reframe it that way, I realized that I needed to focus in on all the people who would be there, because this is about them. This is about all the people who did show up, who did sacrifice and give their time and attention to be with us at the event. And my focus needed to be on creating the best experience possible for those people. And I am so proud of the way that we as a community did that. As Sam had mentioned on one of our early calls leading up to the event, how do you create an 11 out of 10 experience? And that was what I was striving for, and I needed to reframe that for the day, and so I did. The night before the event, I know I'm jumping around here, but the night before the event, Michaela and I were loading up the U-Haul. So we have a U-Haul van parked outside of our home here in Philadelphia. It's 9 o'clock at night. We've just carried hundreds, if not thousands of pounds of items, loaded it into the back of this U-Haul. I shut the doors, tired, ready for bed. And it starts raining, and I'm standing outside staring at this van, and the cargo compartment lights will not shut off. So, not wanting to deal with this, but knowing that I needed to deal with it, I check all the doors. I, do a Google search. I attempt to find out what needs to be done to get these lights to shut off. Fast forward 20 minutes. I've checked everything I know to check. I'm frustrated beyond all measure, sitting in the front seat of a U-Haul van, wet from the rain, just beside myself, not knowing how we're going to get this situation fixed so that I can go to sleep. And out comes Michaela, and I step out of the van. She does a few things. 30 seconds later, lights are off and we're off to bed. And so I just wanted to share that because it sticks out to me in my mind as just one of those moments where the stress of putting on an event like this really gets to you. And it got to me. One of the best compliments I think I've gotten in a long time is that I am consistent and composed. And when someone comes to interact with me, they know what they're going to get. And I am so flattered by that. And I hope it's true. On the inside, beneath the composure, there is chaos, there is stress. I'm very human. And a lot of times that gets to me. And I try not to let it happen often, but sitting in that U-Haul van was one of those moments. And so to fast forward back to the event day, we're done with the speaking. From there, we take a group photo. I'm so excited to see that picture and all of the faces that were there for the day. From there, we move into a team building phase. In that team building phase, we're given high fives, we're given hugs, we're meeting people we've never met. We're sharing our life stories in 60 seconds or less. We're getting to know people on still somewhat of a surface level, but we're getting that nervous energy out and we're connecting. From there, one of the highlights of the day for me is the rock, paper, scissors, shoot tournament. Kieran Williams won it last year. This year, my client Morgan won it all. And the energy is just so high, right? You're playing rock, paper, scissors, shoot, a game, that children play. And it's just so fun. And you get to the end where there are these two people with a couple hundred people cheering them on. And I just love it. And I'm excited to watch that footage back because I want to relive that moment. So we move on from that. We've got a couple other activities: push-up challenge, plank challenge, walking lunge with a partner carry challenge, bear crawl, red light, green light. Just a lot of fun. From there, we end that phase of the day with an exercise that is very uncomfortable, an exercise that I've alluded to in some previous episode of this podcast. It is simple and it is hard. It is you and a person you've never met before, sitting down on the ground, hands on each other's knees, making uninterrupted eye contact without words until I decided it was enough time. I let that go on for 8 minutes. It was almost, I would say it was the longest 8 minutes of most people's lives in that room. And if you're listening to this and you've never attempted an exercise like that, I would encourage you to do so. I think for me, and I hope for some of the people at the event, it's this moment where you are learning how to let someone see you while also learning how to see another person. And, in the world we live in, we're moving, we're busy, we're focused on ourselves. And yes, we are seeing other people and other people are seeing us. But when you have that uninterrupted, focused look, stare deep into someone's eyes, you almost gaze past the facade deep into the depths of who someone is. And even without words, I think it's very possible and probable that you're able to feel what someone else is feeling and allow someone else to feel what you're feeling. And that's a powerful connection. From there, we moved to the journaling and small group discussion phase of the day. We provided journals, journal prompts, pens, and in small groups of about 8 to 10 people, everybody had time to answer those hard journal questions for themselves and then to discuss them with the people in their groups. And I encouraged everyone to be open and vulnerable in an effort to make meaningful, deep connections. And I can't tell you how many people came up to me and said, I cried today. And, it was during the journal session, it was during that discussion. And I just love that allows people to realize how similar we all are because of the things that we've been through. Going back to my story, the hard things that I've been handed are unique to me and they're universal all at the same time. We all go through hard things, both chosen and unchosen. We all struggle, we all suffer. And it's a choice to find strength in that. And that part of the day is special for that reason and more. While that was happening, we had 1,000 pounds of ice delivered to the event space. Those 1,000 pounds of ice were a bit much, I'll admit, but I didn't want to not have enough. And so that got delivered. I saw that delivery through, made sure everything was good. And then from there, we moved to the fitness portion of the day, which is my favorite. We had 3 workout options. We had a yoga option led by Emily Sample. We had a CrossFit partner workout, chipper style, led by Julie Burrill. And we had a high intensity circuit style strength and conditioning workout led by Sam Tooley and Kieran Williams from the Garage Gym. Yoga went down to the pier by the water and they got some sun and had a beautiful time. The 2 workouts in the gym, the energy was so high and I was on cloud 9. It's the part of the day where I get to step back and just observe. I get to watch all of these beautiful people do hard things together. and I don't have to do anything. I'm not responsible for organizing the workouts, leading the workouts, none of that. I just get to watch. I get to cheer people on. I get to get down on the floor and encourage everybody and anybody who's struggling, and it's beautiful. And so, music is loud, energy is high, people on treadmills, bikes, rowers, ski ergs, lifting barbells, dumbbells, kettlebells, um, just sweating, uh, laughing, smiling, hurting. It was special. And I'll say this, my parents were there to help with the event. My dad took pictures. My mom was just whatever needed to be done. She was there handing out shirts, organizing the food. It both so helpful, and I'm so grateful for them. My in-laws were there as well. They're not people who work out often, but have gotten into fitness a bit more in recent years, and saw my father-in-law jogging around the block. I've never seen him run in his life. I'm picturing him in jeans. I don't think he was wearing jeans, but that's really all I ever see him in. He did the workout. My mother-in-law also did one of the workouts, worked hard, and it's just so cool to see people have that experience who I know and who I care about so much. And so that's a great day. I'm so tempted to bring out my phone and film it all, but I had to keep reminding myself to be present in that moment because I don't get this often. This is a special thing, and I've hired very skilled photographers and videographers to capture these moments for us. And so I was present. I was just loving every second of it. And I'm so grateful for that portion of the day and how hard everyone worked. Following that component, we then moved to the final phase, which was the cold plunge. And I asked Brendan Cook to lead the cold plunge this year. He's someone I met within the last 6 to 8 months. His energy is infectious. He's just such a bright light in this world. And he jumped right in and he led the cold plunge. We had 200-gallon tubs. We had 1,000 pounds of ice, and the first two to plunge were me and Michaela. And we got in that water, and I've been in some cold water before. I will say that might have been the coldest water I've ever been in. And that might have been the most I've ever hurt in water before. And so, you know, staring across at each other, watching her push through the pain was a special moment. We got out and I did not warm up for the rest of the day. I organized this event. I told people to bring towels and I did not bring a towel for myself. I just got caught up in the chaos. And so I air dried on a cool, windy day here in Philadelphia. And inside I was warm though. My heart was so warm, so full. And I watched other people get in that cold plunge and just knock it out of the park. People who have never done it before just 100% embrace the moment and the experience. And there was this one woman who was at the event, who's been through a lot, and I don't know her whole story, and I would love to learn more of it. Me and another person at the event, we carried her to the cold plunge. She has all four limbs amputated, and we carried her to the cold plunge. We put her in the plunge. She was so calm, peaceful, serene. If you didn't see the ice in the water, you would have thought that she was floating in the most comfortable environment ever. Huge smile on her face, just there, no shivers. And I told her, I said, you're crushing this. You're making this look easy. And staring into space, and I have the chills right now. Staring into space, she said, I've just been through so much worse. And I'll never forget that. you know, you can see in the physical world that she's been through a lot. And the reason this stood out to me is because we've all been through our stuff, right? And a lot of it you can't see like that, right? My eyes, for example, if you meet me, you can't see that, right? Someone who's experienced deep loss, you can't see that on the surface. Going back to the idea of being seen, allowing other people to see us, and also challenging ourselves to see other people, right? Beneath the surface, we are so much more similar than we are different. And to watch her channel that hurt, that struggle, that pain, that suffering, and use that backdrop to make this experience one that didn't seem so hard was really beautiful. And I'm grateful that she allowed me to be part of that experience for her. As we wrapped up, there was a lot to clean up. I'm so grateful for all of the help I had in that. I got carried away in conversation, and part of the challenge of a day like that is I'm meeting people who I've worked with online for years or months, and I've formed very deep relationships with these people, and I'm meeting them for the first time in person. And I want to spend an unlimited amount of time and energy investing into being present for them in that conversation. And I did my best. It's just hard because you get pulled in all these different directions, and someone wants a picture, someone wants a conversation, someone has a question. And I say all that because I'm so thankful for each moment that I had with each person who was there. And I hope that all of those conversations can be a catalyst for further future, deeper conversations. And so people start leaving. It ends up just being me and my family. We get the last few things loaded into the U-Haul and we say our goodbyes. Michaela and I are in the truck. She's driving, of course. she she's good with stuff like that. And just sitting there, and she told me she was proud of me. And I know that. And for whatever reason, just all the emotions of the day, it just hit me. And part of me wanted to cry. Part of me wanted to just pass out and go to sleep. Part of me wanted to just sit there, soak it all in. Part of me wanted to rewind 6 hours and do it all over again. Part of me also wanted nothing to do with the stress of that. And I was just in this space where I felt so light. I felt so high. I felt so good. I felt so present. We drove home and I was flooded with texts and DMs and just messages from people who were at the event. And I felt so loved. Again, none of this is about me, but as a human who's behind all of this, it did mean the world to have people travel to be there, to have people share encouragement with me about how all of this has impacted them in such a positive way. I just feel so thankful that this is the path that I get to pursue. To rewind and loop back to Friday and even Thursday night before the event, I got to spend some extra time with James Boria and Brendan Cook. Brendan Cook, again, led the cold plunge and did such an amazing job. James Boria has been a client of mine for almost the past 3 years. One of my favorite experiences that I think I've ever had, and one of my favorite podcasts that I've ever recorded was with James about his bear crawl ultra marathon world records. For those of you who are unfamiliar with that, you should go back and listen to that episode. He bear crawled an ultra marathon through New York City. And I had the pleasure of coaching him through that and being there with him through that entire experience. On Thursday night, James and I recorded a podcast for his thing. And we did that in the third floor of my home, in the office that I'm recording this podcast in, where I spend most of my time. And we talked about so many different things. The one thing that I want to just relay here is that part of what I'm doing, part of what I'm striving for is to separate from the pack, to separate from normal, to live with higher standards and operate at a place of excellence. Rewinding 10 years, the way that I did that was by isolating myself. It was that hood up mentality where you are the only one in your corner, whether it feels like that, whether it is like that, or whether you've manufactured that feeling for yourself to motivate. It was that hood up mentality. I was the only one in the library. I was the only one in the gym. Everyone else was partying, drinking, hungover the next morning. And I was getting ahead and I was creating that separation from the pack. And I love that. I love that idea. It fires me up. I couldn't tell you why, but it does. One of the hardest things for me is separating from the pack while also bringing along people who want to be separated from the pack. One of my favorite quotes, and if you listen to the podcast, you've heard it before, from Friedrich Nietzsche: those who dance are considered insane by those who can't hear the music. Project Endure, this event, the tribe that we're building, we are dancing to a different music. We're dancing to a rhythm that most people don't hear. Many people would look at what happened yesterday and call that crazy. And I would agree. I would also add that I don't think crazy is a bad thing. Crazy is a compliment. Crazy means you're operating in a place where most people can't imagine or don't want to imagine because it would require too much effort, too much sacrifice, and existing in too much uncertain circumstance. I would argue that crazy is a good thing. And I am so grateful to be able to be surrounded by other crazies who want to separate from the pack. We got to share a meal on Thursday night here in my home. We had pizza. The rule is from Brendan Cook, you have to finish the food. So we ate 2 whole pizzas between the 3 of us and my wife. I slept well on Thursday, woke up on Friday morning, pouring rain. We went to a local track with the Team Endure athletes. We did a track workout. The weather cleared up a bit. That was a lot of fun. We spent the afternoon at a local gym doing some interviews, headshots. We did a group workout, some team building activities. It was just a blast. And we had dinner on Friday night as a team. And I was just so grateful to be surrounded by those people, watching them grow closer in a matter of hours in such a meaningful way. And I shared this last year, but it feels so good to be able to take a group like that out to dinner and pick up the bill because of all the hard work that I've put into building this. And it's brought us to a place where Project Endure can afford to do that. And I don't know why that means so much to me, but I just love the idea of being able to support other people, to be able to provide an experience for other people. And I love that. And so again, that brings us back to the U-Haul on the night before the event where I am sitting there frustrated. And in this jumbled full circle recap, I think you can get a good picture of the roller coaster of emotions that went on. And I guess a few more things just to wrap this all up. You know, this event, yes, we've been planning it for the last 6 months. And when I say we, it's been me. It's been me and it's been a handful of other people who here and there have offered help and assistance, but it's been me and it's been a lot. And even though it's been those past 6 months, it's been 3+ years getting to this point. And it's consistent effort compounding on itself. It's collecting good human beings around a meaningful mission and an ever developing vision. And I am on top of the world. I am going to ride this high as long as I can. And when it comes back down, because it will, because it always does, I will continue to show up because I feel responsible for showing up for the people that I care about the most, not in a bad way, not in a way where I don't look forward to it. In fact, it's the opposite. I feel responsible in such a positive way to show up for people because I know I've needed that in the past, and I feel grateful to be in a position where I can do that. And so, if you've listened to this entire podcast, I appreciate you. I don't even know how to wrap this up, but I will say this. If you're listening to this and you were at the event, thank you. I would love to connect. I would love to learn more about you. I would love to get you better connected with our community going forward so that you can experience more of all that this is, all that we are. If you weren't at the event, if you'd like to come to a future event, the best way to stay in touch and informed would be through our social media, our Instagram account, which I will link in the description of this episode. And if you've been on the fence about interacting with us, interacting with me, I hope that you'll reach out because I would love nothing more than to meet someone who finds what we're doing inspiring or encouraging. We would love nothing more than to be able to support you in any way that makes sense. And with that being said, I'm going to continue to process all of this and I am going to get some rest and I'm going to return that U-Haul after we unload 1,000+ pounds of stuff. With that being said, I will talk to you next time. And I am so thankful for your time and attention. Do hard things.
If you enjoyed this episode of the Project Indoor podcast, go ahead and subscribe, leave a review on your platform of choice, and share this episode with a friend. It helps us get more conversations like this out to more people like you. We appreciate you, and we'll talk to you next time. And one more thing. If you're looking for a community of people all striving to be better together, check out the Project Indoor Hard Things Club. The link is in the description below. We'd love to have you.